Hello. So it's the last day of February, and there's a lot of things to do. So today I'm just going to go straight to the highlights, and yeah, let's start. So the first one is from Range. Hedgehog experts, hedgehog experts have more than enough knowledge about the minutiae of an issue in their specialty to do just what Dan Cahan suggested: cherry pick details that fit their all encompassing theories. The deep knowledge works against them. Skillful forecasters depart from the problem at hand to consider completely unrelated events with structural commonalities rather than relying on intuition based on personal experience or a single area of expertise. Right. So I think what the author is saying over here is, referring to hedgehog experts or the people who like to go deep into a problem rather than go broad. And I'm forgetting what was the simile for the people who go broad anyway. So people who tend to go deep, they have all encompassing theories about why things work the way they do. And in that case, what they tend to do is cherry pick all the details. And I know I'm saying they, but I'm one of them in many ways. So I know exactly what the author is talking about, cherry picking all the details so that it fits the worldview that we have. Whereas generalists, they are aware of what's happening at the edges, and uh, thereby they're able to better deal with things creatively and come up with solutions that nobody else might have thought. And that's really what the book is all about. How generalists are, in this complex world where finding out creative solutions to problems is becoming more and more important. Why would generalists thrive in such a place? So, yeah, let's move on. Why has nobody told me this before? Emotional reasoning is a thought bias that leads us to use what we feel as evidence for something to be true, even when there might be plenty of evidence to suggest otherwise. Right. So this is over here. The author is referring to how we kind of assume the worst in ourselves. Not even assume. It's like we know that when something, like for example, when we make a mistake, we generalize and say that okay, we are worthless. So this is always the case, and we might be doing that for other people as well, where we see one incident and we tend to attribute it to that. This is always the case, and that's the bias over here. It's the thought bias that leads us to feel that that whatever evidence we have, um, like even if you have very little evidence, as in like just one incident that suggests something, and there might be plenty of evidence suggesting the opposite, we ignore that. And that's because of course the emotions that play into the role, that play into the scenario at that moment, frustration, anger, embarrassment, shame, all of these emotions, and that kind of clouds our judgment, kind of stops us from thinking about like distinguishing between one incident compared to many incidents or general trend. So let's move on. The Anthropocene Reviewed. For many species of large animals in the 21st century, the single most important determinant of survival is whether their existence is useful to humans. But if you can't be of utility to people, the second best thing you can be is cute. You need an expressive face, ideally some large eyes. Your babies need to remind us of our babies. Something about you must make us feel guilty for eliminating you from the planet. So this book is kind of like reviews on various things in Anthropocene, or reviews on anything that has to do with us. So this is I think this is about the teddy bear, the chapter on teddy bear, and as like why is teddy bear cute? Bears are not really cute that way, right? They are scary, but teddy bears are cute. So that's the kind of the moment over here, and I'm forgetting the whole what all the author says in this particular section, but yeah, this is what it's referring to, that bears were saved because of the teddy bear, because of the cute, because they were cute, not because of any other reason. We'll move on. At your best, in this culture you almost have to be stressed. For an ambitious person, it's rather unthinkable not to be stressed. When you start to live in the thrive cycle and you find yourself loving your green zone, you might think there's something wrong because you're having too much fun and getting far too many things done. So this refers to that that feeling that, if you're not stressed, you're not working enough, or you're coasting. And I know I get that feeling all the time. If I'm not feeling stressed about something, I have to feel stressed. It's really, I mean, I completely relate to what the author is saying over here. So the thrive cycle and green zone, these are concepts that are introduced in this book. So, the about the stress, that's not really that new. There are other books that talk about this. I think the best book that talks about this is 4,000 Weeks. Kind of, it's like the topic over there, and to a certain extent, it's also the point of stolen focus in a different way. But yeah, um, the thrive cycle and the green zone, these are concepts introduced in this book. And green zone basically refers to, when you have your most energy in the day, and when you're when you feel like you can do anything. So once you optimize that, as the book suggests, once you optimize that, you will start feeling less stressed, or no, not stressed at all, and you'll have a lot of fun, and you'll be very productive. And the author is basically pointing out that, that might make you feel guilty. And again, like I said, I can completely relate to that. So let's move on. As a man thinketh, circumstances do not shape us so much as they reveal us. As the master of our thoughts, we are the authors of our environments. I think this has come up a while back, the exact same thing, and there's not much for me to add over here. Um, yeah, let's move on. 4,000 weeks. Oh, we just talked about it. So we fail to see or refuse to accept that any attempt to bring our ideas into concrete reality must inevitably fall short of our dreams, no matter how brilliantly we succeed in carrying things off, because reality, unlike fantasy, is a realm in which we don't have limitless control and can't possibly hope to meet our perfectionist standards. Yeah, this is. I think this relates to, how the view, the how do I put this? We chase after things. We try to, and I'm talking about myself over here. I try to make things perfect. I have this idealized vision of, okay, how things should look, and if it doesn't, because reality, of course, it's a lot more chaotic than our imagination. I might have imagined a perfect state for my result, but in reality, it's not going to be perfect, because reality is by nature, it's chaotic. It's beautiful, in its own way, like how nature is beautiful. But nature is beautiful because it's organic, it is chaotic to an extent, and everything. So we don't have unlimited control in the real world. And when we try to bring our abstract ideal notion into real world, we'll always have this struggle of bringing our ideas in, and we meet frustration because it's difficult to deal with, not seeing your ideas perfectly replicated in the real world. I really like another book, how it covers, how this idea is covered in another book. Not the same idea, but the difference between imagination and the real world, in a book called Everyday Chaos. It has come up before over here. And in that book, there is this thing about, I think, kingdom of normal and kingdom of accidents. Whereas, we have tried to take control of our world by identifying what's normal, what's not, and as in, like, we've tried to enforce our version of what normal should look like. We have straight roads, structured roads, that, okay, and vehicles are on roads, people are on sidewalks or on at the pedestrian crossing. Uh, that's the control that we have tried to bring in the world. And for example, if you see this, compare this to traffic in a country like India, where I am from, you understand that, okay, like, in reality, things are not going to be that straightforward, are not going to be idealized. They are chaotic. There is a certain beauty in that, even, but there is also the frustration if the vision that you want is like an orderly world. And the book talks about that. Any departure from the normal world seems very strange to us, although the world that we have tried to create, the world that we have tried to control, is a very, very small subset of the real world, which is kingdom. I mean, like, the kingdom of accidents. It is called accidents because it is not our normal. but it is actually the normal that happens in the world. It's just that we don't deal with it, and that's why we are calling them accidents. Anyway, I feel like I can keep talking about it, but let's move on. Stolen focus. So, an algorithm that prioritizes keeping you glued to the screen will unintentionally but inevitably prioritize outraging and angering you. If it's more enraging, it's more engaging. I think this is fairly. Uh, I mean, it's not really a new concept. The social media is designed to get you angry. Again, like I said, it may be unintentional, but the thing that keeps you engaged, our evolutionary instincts, they prioritize on things that enrage us. So inadvertently, social media, that's what it has become. Any social media you pick up, the things that gain a lot of attention are the things that actually enrage you, that kind of force you to act. You hear good news and you may think, okay, yeah, that happens every day, but the things that kind of frighten you, that kind of enrage you, you will interact with that. And social media, of course, it's designed to uh, keep you engaged, right? So that this is what it's going to use. Let's move on. Cues. Most people, when trying to hear something more clearly, tilt their head to the side to expose the ear. Because of this instinct, a head tilt cue shows interest and curiosity. People who tilt their head during conversations immediately increase their likability and thus their wow factor. So the head tilt is, it's kind of like showing just uh, tilting towards the side so that you're facing your ear towards the person. And it's an instinct. Again, it's not really the book is not talking about what makes sense in our rational minds, but what actually happens with years and like millions of years of evolution and whatever. So it's that we have learned this cues, they're kind of embedded into it. So it's the difference between what works and what should work, really. But again, uh, a simple head tilt can show that you're really interested, and like the author says, increase the wow factor. We'll move on. The eye test. Kavanaugh seemingly believed that he could eliminate risk by stripping almost anything that resembled human instinct from the process. He didn't trust his gut or anyone else's because analytics had proved how often our guts deceive us. Hence, widgets. Assembly lines don't run on feel. So the author is talking about this idea of even in creative industries, how everything can be reduced to widgets and assembly lines. So anything, if you remove anything that looks like human instinct from the process, you gain consistency, but you lose everything else in the process. That's the topic of the book. It's not covered in this highlight, but we see this, right? For example, as a software engineer, as a manager, I've seen this happen over years where the art of software writing, and which I really believe it's an art, has been reduced to a process, and it's kind of sucked the joy out of it. Um, so I'm not saying that I'm not against process. Process has its place, but so does creativity. So does the human element, the human instinct over there. Um, yeah, and reducing everything to data. There is actually a lot of discussion around this. Relying too much on data. Yeah, data has its place, but relying too much on data, and at the exception of human instinct or that gut feel, which was that book by Malcolm Gladwell. There was this book about this. But anyway, back to the topic. Eliminating the human instinct entirely, it's not acting in our best favor. It's not acting in our favor. Sorry. Yeah. Let's move on. On-time delivery. This is from an article. Teams that regularly deliver software are perceived to be more predictable. This includes limiting the amount of work in progress. So the author is talking about continuous delivery, continuous deployment, and they're perceived to be more predictable. It's kind of weird. We just talked about predictability in software or consistency. But yeah, this is the key difference is they're perceived to be more predictable. The impression is there. So the idea is that you deliver software as it gets ready. And today there are mechanisms to do that. Yeah, maybe a few years back it was really difficult to think of something like this. But today there are mechanisms to deliver software regularly. And if you do that, the teams are perceived to be more consistent, more predictable, and more productive. And one of the things that needs to happen over here is to limit the amount of work in progress. Uh, Again, a lot of it is covered in the article, so I'll link to it in the description. If continuous delivery is of interest to you, do read this article. And I think that's the end of it. Yeah, I'm going to skip this today again in the interest of time. Little uh, Today, I know it's been a little longer than my usual target, but there were some really interesting highlights today, and they were fun. Especially the one from the 4,000 weeks about reality and imagination. So have a good day, and welcome to the March. Welcome to March. Have a good day. Bye.